Hi everyone, I'm Zen, your astrologer, and welcome to your horoscope for the week of March the 8th, 2021. We have an active and very powerful sky, and it is with great joy and almost enthusiasm that I can announce that when I say active, this is where it's a totally different kind of active than we had all throughout 2020 and even the first months February and January of the year 2021. This is the kind of active when the power is in our hands, when the ball is finally in our courts. So a lot of things are going to depend on us and our decisions, which means that how busy, active, or tumultuous our lives are going to be in this period mostly depends on us. Another blessing, at least from my personal opinion, is that we don't have as many negative, tensioned aspects as we had in the last couple of months, because the main conversation of tension is the long-lasting square between Saturn and Uranus, but this is something that's going to stay with us for the rest of the year. And the other conversation of tension is Neptune squaring the nodes of the moon, so the north node in Gemini and the south node in Sagittarius, but that is also a very long-lasting celestial conversation, so we're already used to that. And if you're speaking about this Neptune squaring the nodes of the moon, exactly next week we have a game changer here, because we have this really magical, profoundly psychological, artistic, ethereal, deep emotional new moon taking place in the sign of Pisces on the 13th of March. And this new moon is conjunct Neptune, so this can add a lot of clarity, a lot of divine inspiration to the conversation of tension which Neptune holds with the nodes of the moon. So this can finally be a moment of breakthrough, but it also depends very much on us and how open we are. And of course, without a shadow of doubt, Neptune, the sign of Pisces, the Sun and Moon in Pisces, and also Venus in Pisces, makes this energy extremely subjective. So this isn't really like the objective truth. This isn't like a Uranian energy, but it's more like what we choose as the truth for ourselves. And of course, Venus, if we choose a truth aligned with love, aligned with optimism, aligned with positivity, and by this I don't mean the toxic positivity where we just force it upon ourselves, but rather that optimism which sources from our hearts, which sources from our beings. For example, the sheer love of life, the sheer joy of being present in this timeline, of being able to witness and observe everything that is going on in the world. And we cannot deny the fact that what we are experiencing right now is so unique that no other generation ever experienced anything like that. And this isn't just like philosophical thinking, because basically that can be perfectly valid for the Second World War, let's say. We don't know how it feels like, only that generation who experienced it knows. But still, if we just think about the technology we have, if we think about how many things which were deemed impossible just 50 years ago are an active, real presence in our lives, if we think about all the cosmological and scientific discoveries, the evolution of our spirituality as a collective, our life philosophies, where the limits of our thinking are, that makes this timeline, this present moment, so very, very unique. And this is Neptune as well. Neptune squaring the North Node. We can either fear it, we can either feel distressed that we don't know what's going on, the big confusion, we're not on the same page, We don't know what to expect in the future because, we're leaping towards something really mysterious. But at the same time, we can choose to enjoy it. We can choose to look at it as a miracle. We can even see how the divine Neptune works through everything because, let's just look back at our fantasies, our collective fantasies, which are movies, which are books, which are fiction. Let's say Star Trek, let's say Jules Verne. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this name correctly, but so very many things that people dreamt of just 50 years ago, 100 years ago, came into existence with, extraordinary precision. Just look back at Star Trek, where they had all that touch screen and communicating via video. And of course they had robots and all of that. That was pure fiction. And in the world of today, as in right now, that is part of our everyday lives. And not only it is like an optional part of our everyday lives, like especially with this COVID situation, a lot of people were forced to perform their everyday activities through video calls, through cyberspace, this remote communication. So that is already a little bit of Star Trek in existence right now. And this is what makes the times we live in so very unique and unusual. And not to mention that we are also those generation who experiences what Neptune feels like in its home sign of Pisces, because that will not repeat very soon. It takes Neptune a lot of years, more than a person's average lifespan, to revolve around the zodiac. So we are so fortunate to experience the magic and the deepest, the most elevated side of Neptune. In other words, whenever Neptune is in the sign of Pisces, well, that is almost like the divine being here with us, soul, body, spirit, as in the closest the divine can infiltrate into our existence. And because of this very potent and magical and mystical, or actually perhaps the key word here is alchemical, new moon in the sign of Pisces, we are definitely going to be reminded of how fortunate we are to be alive right now, and also that our soul's imagination, our spirit, our connection to source holds infinite power. This is the kind of theme where everything in reality is just an illusion. Maybe that everything that is in our world, everything even physical, the physical cosmos, the universe, is just a dream of the divine mind. So everything is so very susceptible to a subjective perception to it. And ultimately, our subjective perceptions is the perception of the divine alive inside of us. So what we perceive is real for us individually, and the divine empowers that. The divine makes it real. But still, Neptune does square the North Node in Gemini, and Gemini is the lower mind. It is the practical, rational, down-to-earth mind. So for some people, this energy is going to be extremely confusing. It is going to be like a mist blocking everything from our sight. But for other people, especially artists, philosophers, those who are deep thinkers, those who work with the spirit, those who are very open to these kind of things, that can be a most wonderful energy, because the sun sextiles at this time Pluto. Pluto is power. And how we translate this in an astrological language, well, it gives us power over what illusions we have in our lives. So this is the moment, one of those moments, when we can turn fantasy, imagination into reality, because the divine gave us this power. And actually the divine wants us to do that. As an artist, musicians, those who sing, those who transfigure and transform reality. For example, those who make movies, actors, everything that has to do with art and transmutation. Well, all of that is divinely powered, so the divine actually wants us to beautify our reality, to beautify even nature, because yes, nature is sacred and all, but she also has a very raw, a very savage side. And the universe is the divine gift to us personally, is that we do not necessarily have to accept that as it is. We can just alchemize it to art, beauty, etc. Now, even though this energy is truly special, as I said, it is mystical, it is deep, it is fantasy, it is sheer beauty of the soul, but at the same time, Pisces is also karmic, and Pisces is also the unconscious, the subconscious, the limit between our consciousness and that which is hidden from the self. So for some people, it can be an extremely intense karmic period when they recall traumas, when basically the sky and destiny calls upon them to release, to forgive, to heal, to look at the past and everything that happened in the past, especially the negative things, through a different worldview and to trying to change it. That is how we find forgiveness. That is how we release the past. And even though this is healing, this is highly beneficial, for some people it is going to be very hard. It is going to be an episode when they recall the trauma and the pain, but at the same time the higher qualities of Pisces, empathy. There is help out there. Do not be afraid to reach out, because this is exactly an astrological period when people are at their most loving, desire to help, supportive, they listen, they want to make it better, they want to share their blessings. So if it happens for a very good reason in this period, because there is also massive help out there. And if you just take a look at the Aquarian side of things, because Jupiter, Mercury and Saturn are in Aquarius, so that is another very concentrated part of the sky. The highest qualities of Aquarius is humanitarianism and just having what it takes to go out and do something good for the world, for the community, for other people, charities, good Samaritan, etc. So these energies work hand in hand to help, to offer support. But of course, they also work hand in hand in a more negative sense, because if the Sun, Moon and Neptune and Venus in Pisces just recalls our wounds and our vulnerabilities, our traumas, everything that we couldn't process, everything that still hurts within us, the past, well then Aquarius is a very, very strong mental energy, and it can also be overthinking, it can also be severe anxiety, it can also be when something is not rational, logical, linear for the mind, that can cause us a lot of suffering. But ultimately, it is really up to us to make the choice what we do with this energy. We may not have much influence over karma, over what the Sun and the Moon and Venus in the sign of Pisces are going to activate within our subconscious, our unconscious mind, so to speak. But we have a lot of power of how we perceive that and what we make of it mentally. We do have power over our thoughts, over our states, and this is the best moment to use it. And perhaps this is actually the downside and the danger of this energy for some people, what we deeply fear, what really troubles us the most. If we add to this the Aquarian empowerment with Saturn and Jupiter being in it, we can make our greatest nightmare, our fears, into reality. So let's be wiser than that. Let's turn this into sheer alchemy and turn our hopes, our wishes, our most beautiful fantasies into reality instead, because Aquarius is also our hopes and dreams. And Saturn in it, well, Saturn gives us that vision to see things from a very down-to-earth perspective, not to be lost in the Neptunian, Piscean waters as we normally would do. And Jupiter can just amplify our own truth, whatever it is that we choose to believe, what we give our power to Pluto. So if we truly choose not to be ignorant with whatever we are feeling, and just to know how much, sheer psychological or spiritual or even mental power we possess as human beings, this is mind over matter, also spirit over matter, also the strength of our unconscious over matter. So what a great opportunity to make really, really big life changes. And this isn't just, to manifest what we desire. This is also very useful in so very many different ways. For example, Pisces and the sun in it, to quit addictions, to take out very unhealthy routines from our lives, to look at ourselves differently and no longer judge our situations by looking at what happened or what didn't happen in the past. This is where we can just wake to the fact that we are already living a new chapter. This is where the book of our life stories that we are writing is blank, so we can put everything that we want in there. And if certain pages have to be about the past, because the past is like a support column for our being, we have the power now to transfigure the past and put it there in a very supportive, healthy, and not self-defeating and toxic way. For example, we don't put how much we suffered because of that trauma, but rather the life lessons that we learned and how it changed our lives for the better, and how fortunate we are to know the difference or to know the life lesson that unfortunate event taught us. But I'll get back to this mystical, ethereal, Piscean part of this energy a little bit later on in this recording. Now I'm going to be speaking about more down-to-earth things, because Mercury also holds a conjunction with Jupiter. Even though this conjunction is splitting apart, Mercury is forwarding to the last degrees of Aquarius. This is a really good energy to finally make up our minds, to make choices, to enforce our decisions, to find out in a very down-to-earth way all the information that we need in order to accomplish our goals, desires, plans, etc. To go to professionals and ask for their opinions. It is also a really good energy for legal cases, the travel of documents, any sort of communication, even travels. And of course, even though it's not conjunct Saturn, but the sheer presence of Saturn, it is like a down-to-earth energy. It kind of guards us from deceiving ourselves or hurrying or making choices based on sheer instinct. So this grounding quality of Saturn is like a breath of fresh air. It is almost like a guardian, making sure that through our decisions or actions or whatever we choose to progress with in this period, that we do not get carried away by idealism. And of course, that we always have B options and even C options. So it inspires us with diligence. And at the very, very beginning of the week, the moon is going to transit the sign of Capricorn. So it means it's going to be holding a sextile, a harmonious conversation with Venus, Sun, and Neptune in the sign of Pisces, which is also a really good and grounded energy, because if Pisces is all that mystery, all the magic within us, all of our creational energy, so to speak, the moon in the very practical sign of Capricorn can just guide us of how to turn, fantasy into something real. It also grounds our intuition, our subtle perceptions, our gut feelings. So basically, it gives us a very strong precision on how to turn and use the more mystical, spiritual, faith-based part of ourselves to accomplish like down-to-earth material things. And not to mention, it is a really good creative period for artists where maybe you can get connected with people who do require your work. So it's really, really good for business, work, and material things. On the 10th, the moon in the sign of Aquarius is going to conjunct Saturn, Jupiter, and Mercury one after the other. And basically what that means is our decisions and choices, whatever we initiated, whatever is going on in our lives, maybe officially, legally, etc., if we have to express our preferences, well, our soul will support us. We're also going to be feeling whatever that we want, the plan, the strategy, even on a soul level. So our emotions are not going to fight against us. We can overcome our fears, but also in a different way. If something is the bad choice, we are definitely going to feel it inside, as in a big restlessness, and that is also a massive help because we will know what not to choose. And also on the 10th, the Sun conjuncts, as in meets in the sky with Neptune. That is a really good aspect for clarity. Basically everything that I have been speaking about at the beginning of this video regarding the sign of Pisces. And even though there is no guarantee that this is gonna be felt in an extremely elevated, euphoric and positive way, because as I said, it really depends on what we have in our souls, what we have in our unconscious minds. So for some people it might be a little bit depressive, melancholic, nostalgic, yet it still gives us the power to see within ourselves with greater clarity, as in see things internally for what they truly are. Honesty with ourselves. For example, it is really good for forgiving ourselves for mistakes that we might have done. Seeing where the root of a trauma, a pain, a hurt is. Or if you are going through a really tough time, this Sun and Neptune can simply guide you to that person who can help you the most, regardless if it's a best friend, a therapist, a professional, or someone who you can meet coincidentally. At the same time, without a doubt, this is one of the most perfect times of the year for artists, for creativity, for music, for any kind of spiritual activities, dreams, altered state of consciousness, escapism used in the most positive sense possible, inspiration, and even, understanding, even if through a non-logical, non-linear type of perception, where you are on your karmic path, what it is that you still need to accomplish, what kind of karmic closures, or maybe new beginnings you still need to have in your life. So this is a really good prophetic, as in visionary aspect. You just need to be able to interpret it. And also dreams at this time, very symbolic and deeply meaningful dreams, are likely to just pop up in our heads, even if it's daydreaming. Now later on in the week, we're going to be having two aspects which, even though will not perfect next week, but we can still feel their energies, and they're like really beautiful and empowered energies. So I would like to mention these as well. First of all, the Sun sextiling Pluto. This is a really good energy to work with your karma. if you feel empowered, inspired, guided in any way or shape or form possible, you can take like action. You can just follow the guidance, follow what you feel, follow your intuition, and it might lead you at the right place at the right time, or maybe a fated meeting. Or, simply said, this is also an alchemical aspect. The sun is the light of our consciousness, pure creational energy. Pluto is alchemy, it is our power. So we accomplish something that is inspired from deep within us, something fated or something which our souls want us to do or live or experience. This aspect can also be very good from a financial perspective, because even if, consciously you might not be aware of it, you are gonna be more visible, especially your talents, your gifts, your skills, who you are as a person, especially the impact or the impression you leave on other people, that is going to be highlighted, and that gives you power. And you can use that power for financial purposes. For example, get that promotion, impress your boss with your work, impress certain people. It is really, really good for relationships and love and romance and sexuality as well, because Venus will also be holding a square with this Pluto. So that is magnetism, that is attraction, that is persuasion, that is getting what you truly want and desire. That can also be like a karmic debt being paid off, and that can also mean money if it's money. It can also be favor, but at the same time it can also be fated love. Or perhaps the resurrection of an old love. It can also play out as someone who you used to have a very good relationship with, or someone who you've been in love with, or vice versa. Maybe they've been in love with you, but it wasn't the right time. Now all of a sudden changing, and through sheer coincidence or the hand of fate, this union, in a symbolically speaking, of course, resurrected way, returning into your life and giving you the chance to start again, or to continue from where you abandoned this love story. Of course, it doesn't necessarily have to be romance. It can be best friend, it can be soulmate, someone who you used to cooperate with, work with, professionally even. It can be absolutely any person who was significant in the past. It can also be because both of you found forgiveness if there was a blockage, a problem, a conflict. Because of that forgiveness, there is no reason for fate to keep you separate anymore. But Pluto ultimately is also ending. It is also transformation. So it is perfectly valid if you want to move on with your life, especially from a psychological perspective. It is a perfect energy to rip out from your soul someone who hurt you or someone who disappointed you, to get over an old love, to get over an old relationship, to get over a divorce, and just accept that that was the past, it's no longer relevant and valid, and now you can enjoy your freedom, or make sure that that never happens again in your life while your relationship ended, of course. And yet another expression of this energy, it can reveal enemies, it can reveal toxic people, it can reveal people who show something else that they truly are or feel regarding you and your situation, your persona. So it's really good for clarity, and when the truth reaches you, of course you're gonna take action and eliminate the toxic person, the enemy, from your life. Another aspect which is even more important and more powerful than the Pluto, Sun and Venus sextile is Mars, the planet of action, focus, energy, is going to be holding a trine, a supremely harmonious celestial conversation with Saturn. Now, even though this energy is not going to be exact next week, it is only going to be the beginning. They're going to perfect their dance on the 22nd of March. It is still very significant. Well, just think about it. In the last months of 2020, Mars held a conversation of tension, a square with Saturn. And that was a highly conflictual energy in every shape, way, form possible in every area of life. There were challenges, they were conflicts, they were clashes. So it wasn't very pleasant whatsoever. And it kind of forced us to do and execute very, very hard, uncomfortable, even painful action. So it was like duty, obligation. What is it that we have to do necessarily? And sometimes that was stand up for ourselves, for our rights. So, we can see how this energy had a very rebellious influence on us. But this time, Mars speaks in harmony with Saturn. And that is really, really good. Mars is in the sign of Gemini, so that means mind. That means words. That means communication. That means plans, tactics, strategies, other people, partners. Saturn is in the sign of Aquarius. That is society. That is the collective. That is the internet. That is the higher mind. That is the higher way of thinking. And a conversation of supreme harmony between Mars and Saturn, well, that is manifestation. It means getting things done. It means obtaining whatever we worked for. Or, for example, Mars in Gemini, whatever we ask for, whatever we speak, whatever we communicate, well, we receive it. It leaves an impact, and it gets things done. Like, for example, you desperately need a job and you type on Facebook, social media, that I'm looking for a job, and you get like 10 offers and one of them is really, really good for you. This is just a very small example. Of course, Saturn is also karmic. You had a business, especially something either which serves a community, or it is online, or it is something intellectual of nature. You invested a lot of work in it, a lot of effort, resources, money, etc. But during the time that Mars squared Saturn, well, it didn't bear the fruits of your labor because you had to change this. There were obstacles, there were problems, especially Saturn was in Capricorn, so the COVID situation, the restrictions. And now, by miracle, by fate, by karma, you finally get the fruits of your labor. Another expression of this energy, you sacrificed, you worked, you helped maybe other people, maybe unconditionally, and you didn't get anything or didn't want anything in return, and all of a sudden the wheel of fate turns and you get rewarded for all the good things that you have done, all the sacrifices, all the effort that you put into it. Or simply, it can also be perfectly valid, or actually, perhaps this is the most best way to interpret this energy. Inner work. Saturn can also be self-worth. Saturn can also be what you permit in your life, how you see yourself, how you serve your own situation, how you work towards and serve your life path, especially when it was in Capricorn. And now in Aquarius, it is in the house of the hopes and dreams and the future and the collective, your retirement, your long-term future. And because you did all that work, you invested all the sacrifice, like for example, simply just changing your way of thinking, changing your thought patterns, psychological healing, fixing everything that was not working in your life, changing your traditions, your rules, your principles, eliminating everything that just wasn't working in your life, fulfilling your obligations, may they be like moral, like family members, karmic, or like legal, contractual, a debt you had and you had to pay it back. something you might have shared with another person, and now you found equilibrium and justice in that situation because you sacrificed and worked for it. And now Mars activates that Saturn, so that means payoff. That means time to harvest. That means you get what you worked for. And if it was your way of thinking, if it was your thought patterns, how you perceive reality, how you see the world, that you have changed, well then that means whatever your worldview is, that is what you get. If you, for example, you were a negative type person, a pessimistic person, and bad things always happen to you because you attracted it, and you worked with that and you changed that, and now you're really trying your hardest to be positive, but I say not toxically positive, not force it upon yourself, but to just rationally, logically know that a positive way of thinking is much more constructive. You got rid of, for example, fears, insecurities, etc. You learn to communicate, Mars in Gemini. You learn to communicate in a self-empowered way. You learn how to present yourself through words, speech, or any other way in a very positive and empowering light. You will get rewarded for all of that. That Mars trine Saturn can mean a lot of support from other people, support from your community, chances, options, opportunities, doors opening for you in your life which were closed or were totally impossible, and everything changed now because of your mindset, because of your way of thinking, because how you communicate, because how you see the world. So this is where something which was impossible becomes possible right now because it has to reward you. Saturn is the teacher. It had all these limits up in your life, and sometimes it can be torturous. It can be feeling so lost and powerless, and where maybe fate even abandoned you. That is Saturn when it was in Capricorn. But it wasn't like a punishment. It wasn't meant to torture you. It was meant to determine you to change the way you think and to embrace healthy self-worth, self-esteem. And ultimately, if you don't trust yourself, nothing in existence can trust you. And if that is what you changed, well, you have to get the opposite. You have to get the fruits of your labor for that. So if you had financial problems, then maybe money is coming into your life. If you were lonely and had no friends, if your social life was a massive disaster, then that is what is going to change for the better. If you found the courage to express yourself in any sense possible, then that also has to be rewarded. So this is a really, really good energy. And with Mars, planet of action, Mars is the activator. Saturn is the planet of manifestation, and in its most positive aspect, it allows, it rewards, it gives you basically the diploma for passing its karmic exam. So this is an energy which I'm really, really looking forward to. And last but not least, on the 13th of March, we have this very magical new moon in the sign of Pisces. And what makes it so magical is that the Sun, Moon, Venus and Neptune are all going to be conjunct and are going to be sextiling Pluto. Now, in on itself, even if we have 4 planets in the sign of Pisces, Pisces is a dual sign. It can go either way. Yes, for most people, it's gonna be like extremely magical. It is going to be like existing in a world of romance where everything is divinely inspired, where everything has a deeper meaning, when the soul is so very present in everything. Yet for other people, I'm afraid to say this, it can be all the pain, everything repressed, all the nerves, all the stress, all the disappointments, all the hurt exploding. And of course that is something very negative, because that is a lot of emotional distress, pain that is deep, deep, deep depression. But at the same time, we had all throughout 2020 and in the first months of 2021 so much celestial inspiration, so much guidance, so many karmic triggers to heal ourselves, to release the pain, to make terms with the past, with everything that has happened, exactly in order to prevent this. So those who were wise enough to listen and work with themselves find forgiveness. Even if their wounds are not fully healed, it's not gonna be a big deal. But for those people, especially who are very young, inexperienced, who don't know themselves, well, this can turn into a very vengeful episode. So again, I must say, if you feel lost, if you feel there's no one out there in the world to understand you, if you feel like your life doesn't make any sense, or if there are feelings, emotions, thoughts of self-loathe and self-hate, please, please, please reach out, and before anything else, know that that is an illusion. Know that that part of you which inspires you, those bad thoughts, is not real. And if anything, that is the evil. If evil exists, that is the shape and form it takes. It's not outside, it's always inside. That is the most wrathful expression of the shadow. So if you're going through this, please seek help and know that it is a lie. It is an illusion. That is not you thinking that. And you know, whenever I personally felt that way, how I managed to cope with that state of being is, you know, I kind of watched documentaries about insects. For example, like tarantulas, praying mantis, black widow, ants, termites. You get the picture. And naturally, there was the predator and there was the prey. And when you put together a praying mantis with a katydid, well, what chance does the katydid actually have? Nothing. No chance whatsoever. Yet, it will fight for the very last breath. It will fight until it has life running through its body, even if it doesn't make sense. Now, if such a primitive life form values its time here on Earth so that it fights even if it's impossible, well, I'm a human being and I have a neurosystem which is 10 trillion times more advanced. Then what am I doing? What am I thinking? If I want to defeat myself so very badly, then am I not much lower than that katydid? Do I actually deserve to have a physical body? And yet I have. And it is this way how we can finally see the lie, the illusion that those thoughts and feelings are definitely not us, because we are here to be alive and do everything in our power to stay that way. And we don't even have to go to the animal world. Some people lose limbs and parts of their body, and it's fine, they still want to live. So are we truly gonna allow just an emotion, a thought, something which isn't real, which isn't like a physical impediment, to bring us down or even worse? No, absolutely not. And when you wake up to this fact that those thoughts and feelings are lies, then you really have the power to reach out and get help, because you know that you deserve the help. You know that as a species, we are interconnected. That is our nature. That is how nature designed us. So there is always someone out there who wants to help. And this is exactly one of the expressions of this big conjunction in Pisces, the new moon and Venus and Neptune, to wake up to the truth that you don't need to suffer, that basically, even if you are not able to control it there and then, or let's say even if there are neural problems, because some people have genetic problems which influence their their brains, the chemistry inside the body. And that can create depression and all sorts. Or let's say like a severe vitamin D deficiency. There are all sorts of causes. But once we wake up to the fact that there is help out there, that is already a huge step. So this new moon, even if you get the worst expression of it, can also be a massive wake-up call to change your life, because every new moon is a new beginning. And especially in the sign of Pisces, it is almost like a blank page. This is where the universe is inviting you to program your own unconscious mind. So you want to put positive programmings there, that there is hope in the world, there is light. Yes, everything is rosy, everything is beautiful, magical, optimistic, because that is way better than the opposite of that. And this cluster of planets is sextiling Pluto. And one of Pluto's expressions is healing, regeneration, the phoenix rising from the ashes. And regardless of how aware we are of this or not, our unconscious patterns control everything that happens in our lives. Even fate, even coincidences, even synchronicities, absolutely everything is that unconscious program running. And if this is like a celestial invitation to insert the healing line, the miracle line command, the regeneration, the rebirth, the success, the triumph, the meeting that special person, well, by all means, this is what we have to do. So on this day, I highly recommend everyone to be as dreamy, magical, positive as they can, and just dream their biggest fantasy into existence. And especially healing, empowerment, happiness. This is where happiness can truly be a choice, and this Plutonian alchemical power of regeneration, positive transformation, can truly do miracles. This is exactly a moment when those traumas, regardless of how deeply the roots run, have no power over this Pluto, because Pluto is the power. Everything that Pluto touches absorbs. So on one hand, it takes away the power. So if it takes away the power of depression, of anxiety, of those bad seeds inside our unconscious mind, then that is such a beautiful energy, and what a great celestial opportunity to heal ourselves. And those who are already healed, those who already discovered themselves, those who already embrace their spiritual journeys and know how the unconscious works, well, for them, what a massive opportunity this is to program something miraculous to happen in their lives over the course of the next 6 months. And we have Venus there. It can be money, it can be love, it can be self-love, it can be everything that has to do with arts. Maybe a massive breakthrough, a success for artists. We have the moon there. Emotional healing, emotional well-being, happiness. Strengthening our immune system, Pisces. Pisces is also body fat, the adipose that we have. It can be perfect for those people who want to gain weight, and for those who want to lose weight. They can find the proper means, and because their unconscious supports this, everything will work like a charm regardless of what they choose. A supplement, an exercise program, etc. We have the sun there, so identity, what you see and think about yourself, your creativity, your inner sun. And not to mention Neptune, the spirit, the source, the universe, the divine God. So if this energy doesn't have miracle written on all over it, then I don't know what is. And especially the kind of miracle which depends on us, that Pluto, we have to give our power over to it and just insert the command line in our unconscious minds to execute what we desire and what we desire has a big chance to be aligned with spirit because of that Neptune, and also with our healthiest sense of self-worth and unconditional love, Venus. And if you are looking for love, if you want to meet that special person, if you want to unleash the power of your karma, if you know that it's fated, well, this is the time to meditate, to dream, to think big things, to have like fantasy simulations in your mind. Do whatever it is that you can do. Just work with this miraculous energy. Well, this concludes your horoscope. I do hope that you enjoyed it and you found it useful. Thank you so much for all your support, all your kindness and generosity, and for your donations, because without you, I just couldn't possibly support myself and my channel. So a massive thank you to everyone. I wish you the most magical and miraculous new moon that you have ever experienced. May it bring all your dreams into existence. Thank you again, and until next time, bye for now.